I was recently asked about Aravna, Aravna the Jebusite, who is a real, authentic Noahide in the text. Everybody agrees that he was like a Ger Toshav or Noahide, someone who followed the seven laws of Noah at the very least, one believer in one God, and a friend to Israel. It's interesting that Noahides follow the seven laws of Noah, which goes all the way back to Genesis 6 and Genesis 9, and his name is found 7 times. So we begin here in 2 Samuel 24, verse 16. You'll see there's some Noahide clues in here, and some other interesting things going on as well. And the angel stretched out his hand toward Jerusalem to destroy it. And the Lord regretted the evil. And he said to the angel that destroyed among the people, "It is enough, now stay your hand." And the angel of the Lord was by the threshing floor of Aravnah the Jebusite. There's a hint of Noah in this verse right here. Because we see here this word for, and he regretted the evil. The Lord regretted the evil. The first time we come across this word is, in fact, in Genesis 6. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on earth, and his heart was saddened. And you can even see here Noah's name in the word itself. Not only that, if you take these letters and just switch this yud over to this position, you get Noachim or Noahides. Now there's some interesting things going on here. He's called the Jebusite, but this is like a defective spelling. Usually there would be a vav in here. And then you can see here there's even like a different spellings of Aravna, or some people say Arauna. And why is there this definite article, this like hey in front? Like this is saying like the Aravna the Jebusite, which doesn't really seem to make that much sense. So there's a lot of kind of weird stuff going on with this, but you can see it all ties back to Noah. And David said to the Lord, when he saw the angel that smote among the people, he said, "Behold, I have sinned and have acted iniquitously, but these sheep, what have they done? I beg, your hand be against me and my father's house." And Gad came to David on that day and said to him, "Go up to erect an altar to the Lord in the threshing floor of Aravnah the Jebusite." And David went up according to the word of Gad, as the Lord had commanded. And Aravnah looked afar, and he saw the king and his servants passing on towards him. And Aravnah went out and bowed to the king with his face to the ground. And Aravnah said, "Why has the Lord come to his servant?" And David said, "To acquire or to buy from you the threshing floor, in order to build an altar to the Lord, so that the plague will be stopped from the people." And Aravnah said to David, "Let my lord the king take and offer up what seems good in his eyes. Behold, the oxen for the burnt offering, and the threshing tools, and the wooden tools for of the oxen for firewood." So Aravnah is saying, absolutely, and not only that, you can have it all for free. You can have all these things for free. All this Aravnah the king gave to the king, and Aravnah said to the king, "May the Lord your God accept you." Now, this is an interesting verse here, because there are hints of Jethro, and it's kind of interesting because he does show up in the sources on this verse, as we'll see. And the king said to Aravnah, and of course Jethro and the Canaanites are all Noahides and converts. The king said to Aravnah, "No, for I will only buy it from you at a price." So Aravnah wanted to give it for free. He's saying, "No, I want to pay for it. I want to pay the proper rate, so that I will not offer to the Lord my God burnt offerings which I had received for nothing." And David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. Now this is interesting because you can see little hints of Canaanite stuff here. Anytime you see kuf, nun, anything, hey, or a vav, or especially a yud, it's almost always you'll find some Jethro stuff. So you can see it here, and here, and here, and all these combinations are related to him and his descendants. Now we'll see this in the Midrash. Like for instance, I will search up, I know that Elkanah, who is a Canaanite, is in here. Elkanah being one of the descendants of Jethro. And also, if you look for the word Canaanite, you'll find it in there as well. So let me just paste that in, and here it is. So they're saying that there is a link between our verse here and a verse that has come up on this channel many, many times, 1 Chronicles 2:55. So this was not Jethro's intent, but what he said was, I will go to my land and to my kindreds, to my family, to my people, and I will convert the people of my land to monotheism, and of my family. Lest you say he went and did not do so, it is written in 1 Chronicles 2:55, and the families of scribes who dwelt at Yabetz. These were the Canaanites or Kenites who descended from Hamath, the father of the house of Rechav, who are the Rechabites. All these people you're reading about here are Noahides and converts. Either converts to monotheism or converts to full Judaism. But in order to be a full convert, you have to go through a stage where you're a Noahide first. And the children of the Canaanite, the father-in-law of Moses, ascended from the city of date palms, being Jericho. They left the place of fruit, food, and drink, and went to the south of Arad, to the desert, to learn Torah with Yabetz. And who was Yabetz? As we've learned here many times, he was Othniel ben Kenaz, and I also learned that his name is Judah or Yehuda. And it is written, as they're saying, it's related to this verse here. So they're hinting at Aravnah being a Noahide and possibly from Canaanite descent, which makes perfect sense. Come and hear another objection from a verse. And Aravnah said unto David, let the Lord, the king, take and offer up what seems good to him, and he gives him all this stuff for free. Apparently David was willing to accept oxen as offerings from a Gentile. Rav Nachman says Arauna or Aravnah was a Gentile who resided in Eretz Israel and observed the 7 Noahide mitzvot, making him a ger toshav. The 7 Noahide mitzvot include the prohibition against engaging in bestiality, and therefore Arauna was not suspected of this practice. And here's a commentary on that. The sugya continues to discuss the issue of offering sacrifices bought or received from non-Jews. Again, we have a verse that seems to prove that sacrifices can be taken from non-Jews. This is resolved by Rabbi Nachman, who posits that Arauna or Aravnah was a resident alien or ger toshav, a special category of people who are not included in the general category of non-Jews. So the Noahides are a special category of non-Jews. Evidently, such people can offer sacrifices. And here's a little overview that also touches on the 7 laws. Aravnah the king, he was the king of the Jebusites who dwelled in Jerusalem. Even in the days of David, the Jebusites remained in Jerusalem, just as they had remained there after the conquest of Yehuda, as it is written, but the Jebusites dwelt with the children of Judah in Jerusalem to this day. They lived as a subject people, paying a tax of servitude to Yehuda and Benjamin, in order to keep their homes, vineyards, and fields. The fields and threshing floor belonged to Aravnah the Jebusite, and he wanted to give them to David, but he did not want to accept them as a full purchase. Even after David conquered the stronghold, he allowed the Jebusites, who had been there originally under tax and servitude, to stay in the city of Jerusalem until Shlomo built the Holy Temple. These Jebusites were not one of the 7 nations, but rather Philistines descended from Abimelech, as I explained in the book of Yehoshua. Therefore, it was permissible to leave them settled in the land on the condition that they not cause others to sin, as it says, they shall not dwell in your land, lest they cause you to sin against me. So long as they are not sinning, meaning that they accepted upon themselves the 7 Noahide laws, it is permissible to leave them in the land. So this is kind of interesting. Speaking directly about these Noahides who can stay in the land as long as they obey the 7 Noahide laws, which are the foundation of international law to this day. It is a tradition accepted by all that the place where David and Solomon built the altar at the threshing floor of Aravnah was the place that Abraham built the altar and bound Isaac upon it. And that was the place that Noah, again Noah comes up, built upon when he left the ark. And that was the altar upon which Cain and Abel sacrificed, and upon which Adam the first sacrificed when he was created. And from there was born the saying of the sages, man was created from the place of his atonement. So this threshing floor of Aravna is related to these very famous, let's say, sacrifices in the Torah. Let not the blessing of an ordinary man be held lightly in your eyes, for two men great in their generation were blessed by ordinary men, and their blessings were fulfilled. They were David and Daniel. David was blessed by Aravnah, as it is said, and Aravnah said to the king, "The Lord your God will accept you." And David was blessed by Darius. There were 2 cases where a great man was blessed by an ordinary man, and the blessings came true. In our chapter here, a plague comes upon Israel. Aravnah, a Jebusite, blesses David that God should listen to David's sacrifices. God listens, and the plague stops. On my bed at night, from Song of Songs, at the moment when Abraham bound Yitzhak, his son, on top of the altar, I held him and would not let him go. This refers to David. When he took the threshing floor from Aravnah the Jebusite, he found the skull of Aravnah placed under the altar, but God did not disqualify the offerings of Israel. And it's just a repeat here with a little bit of extra information. While the temple work was in progress, the builders found the skull of Aravnah, the owner of the temple site in the time of David. The priests, unlearned as they were, could not decide to what extent the corpse lying there had defiled the holy place. It was for this that Haggai poured out his reproaches upon them. And the angel stretched out his hand. The Holy One projected the image of an angel with a drawn sword in his hand, stretched over Jerusalem. He placed it next to the threshing floor of Aravnah the Jebusite, in order that David would see it there and pray, and that God would be entreated of him there in that place. Then, when the plague stopped, it would be a sign to David that this was the place of the entreaty, there will be the holy temple, the house of prayer and service, just as God had commanded him through the prophet God to build there an altar. His prayer was answered through fire, which came down from the heavens to consume his offerings, as it did in Divrei HaYamim. So this is Chronicles, the book of Chronicles. Abraham did not want to accept any gifts from him, but to pay full value, which is the custom of righteous people. This is Abraham buying the cave and the field from Ephron the Hittite early in Genesis. We find that the King David also did not want to accept any gifts and paid handsomely for the threshing ground of Aravnah the Jebusite, although offered the site plus animals to serve as sacrifices as well as the animals' yokes to serve as firewood. David paid 50 shekels for the threshing ground plus the animals and their yokes, as he did not want to appear cheap in the eyes of God. Or if we say that the purpose of the sacrifices is to bring together and unite the upper powers with the lower, as the Kabbalists think, in any case, we cannot say that the mode of worship is an improper one, since the senses testified that those things were pleasing to God. For the fire came down from heaven, and it consumed upon the altar the burnt offering and the fat. Fire came down for Moses in the tent of meeting, for Solomon in the temple, for David in the threshing floor of Aravnah the Jebusite, for Elijah on Mount Carmel. The Shekinah, or Holy Spirit, rested upon Israel through the offerings, and the priests foretold the future based on the Urim and Tumim. The binding of Isaac took place on a desolate mountain vis-a-vis Mount Moriah. Not until the days of David, when it was uninhabited, was the secret revealed that it was the place specially prepared for the Shekinah, the divine presence of God. Aravnah, or Arauna the Jebusite, tilled his land there. Thus it says, and Abraham called the name of that place, the Lord shall see, as it is said to this day, in the mountain of the Lord it shall be seen. In the book of Chronicles, it is stated more clearly that the temple was built on Moriah. These are without doubt the places worthy of being called the gates of heaven. I shall now make mention of Aravnah, who was a wealthy man among the Jebusites, but was not slain by David in the siege of Jerusalem because of the goodwill he bore to the Hebrews, and a particular benignity and affection which he had to the king himself. When God heard his supplication, he caused the pestilence to cease, and Gad the prophet to him, and commanded him to go up immediately to the threshing floor of Aravnah the Jebusite and build an altar there to God to offer sacrifices. When David heard that, he had not neglected his duty, but made haste to the place appointed him. Now Aravnah was thrashing wheat, and when he saw the king and all his servants coming to him, he ran before and came to him and worshipped him, and he was by his lineage a Jebusite, but a particular friend of David's. And for that cause it was that when he overthrew the city, he did him no harm, as we informed the reader a little before.